The sensor array blinked red for the third time in 5 minutes. Rand clicked his mandibles together in frustration, watching the holographic display flicker and reset. Something was wrong with the equipment again. Living on the edge of Coalition space meant dealing with outdated technology and constant malfunctions. Another glitch, he muttered, reaching for the diagnostic panel. His 6 fingers danced across the controls, running the standard repair sequence. The red light persisted. Otis floated closer, her crystalline body refracting the dim station lights into rainbow patterns across the metal walls. Perhaps we should file another maintenance request. They ignored the last 17. Rand pulled up the raw data feed, expecting to see the usual cosmic background noise. Instead, numbers scrolled past that made no sense. Energy signatures that shouldn't exist. A pattern that seemed almost deliberate. The signal grew stronger. Rand felt his breathing slow as realization crept through his mind. This wasn't a malfunction. Something massive was generating this signal, and it was getting closer. Otis, activate the deep space scanner. Full spectrum analysis. That will drain our power reserves for the week. Do it anyway. The station hummed as additional systems came online. More data flooded the screens. Rand's eyes widened as the computer began matching the signal against historical databases. The encryption pattern was old. Very old. Human military codes from before the Great Isolation. Impossible ôti whispered. This signature matches vessels lost during the breach wars. 87 years ago. Rand checked the readings again. The UHS Perseverance. Colony carrier. Declared lost with all hands. He looked at Otis. This has to be wrong. The pattern is perfect. Either someone found the wreckage and activated a beacon, or they didn't finish the thought. The implications were too enormous. A human supercarrier, thought destroyed nearly a century ago, suddenly broadcasting from contested space. Every faction within 3 sectors would detect this signal. The Krellin Dominion would assume it was a human military operation. The Coalition would panic, and humanity, isolated behind their borders for 6 decades, would face questions they might not want to answer. Rand transmitted an emergency alert to Coalition Command. Within minutes, his screen filled with incoming priority messages. High Chancellor Vess demanded explanations. Admiral Chun wanted tactical assessments. The human embassy requested all available data immediately. Station Outpost 77. This is Coalition Cruiser Daybreak. A voice crackled through the speakers. We are 10 minutes from your position. Prepare all sensor logs for transfer. Captain Holt arrived with an escort of 4 destroyers. Rand watched the warships take up defensive positions around the signal source. Somewhere in the darkness of space, something enormous was approaching. The readings suggested a vessel 3 times larger than anything currently in service. Nina Reeves paced the observation deck of the research vessel Horizon, her hands clasped behind her back. The call from Coalition Command had interrupted her archaeological survey of ancient ruins on the 4th planet. Now, she stood watching the military buildup with growing unease. Dr. Reeves, the captain's voice came through her communicator. You're being transferred to the Daybreak. They need a human consultant. I studied dead civilizations, not military vessels. You're the only human in this sector. Orders from the top. The shuttle ride took 20 minutes. Nina stared out the viewport, trying to process what was happening. She had grown up on stories of the breach wars. Her grandfather served on ships that fought desperate battles against overwhelming odds. The Perseverance was legendary, a massive colony carrier designed to transport 40,000 people to new worlds. When it vanished, humanity mourned for years. Captain Holt met her in the docking bay. He was Peloran like Otis, but his crystalline structure showed battle damage repaired with metallic compounds. A veteran who had seen real war. Doctor, we need you to help establish communication protocols. If there are human survivors, they'll be more likely to trust one of their own. Survivors? After 87 years, the signal is active. Someone is broadcasting. They reached the bridge just as the main view screen shifted to maximum magnification. Nina felt her breath catch. A distortion rippled through space itself, like reality was tearing open. Energy readings spiked beyond the scale of the instruments. All ships, fall back to safe distance. Holt ordered. The distortion expanded. Through the wavering veil of twisted space, a shape began to emerge. Dark metal, scarred hull plating, weapon arrays that shouldn't exist on a colony vessel. The ship materialized section by section, growing larger with each passing second. Nina recognized the basic structure, the distinctive triple hull design, the forward colony modules. But everything else was wrong. The Perseverance had been modified so extensively it barely resembled its original configuration. Armor plating covered every surface. Gun ports bristled from spots that once held observation windows. Strange technology, definitely not human in origin, was welded to the superstructure. Size estimate. Holt asked quietly. For 0.2 kilometers in length. Mass readings consistent with full combat loadout, plus additional modifications. The sensor officer's voice trembled slightly. Captain, those weapon systems are active. Targeting solutions are already locked on our fleet. The Perseverance hung in space like a wounded predator. Battle scars covered the hull. Entire sections showed signs of catastrophic damage that had been repaired with whatever materials were available. Some repairs used human alloys. Others incorporated metals that made the Coalition scanner scream warnings about unknown elements. Broadcast on all human frequencies, Nina said. Let me try. Holt nodded. Nina activated the communication system, her mouth dry. UHS Perseverance, this is Dr. Nina Reeves representing the Galactic Coalition. We have detected your arrival and offer assistance. Please respond. Silence stretched for 30 seconds. Then a minute. The weapon systems remained active, targeting every ship in the Coalition fleet with mechanical precision. Finally, a response crackled through the speakers. The voice was female, young, but carrying a weight that spoke of unimaginable experience. This is Commander Iris Wade of the UHS Perseverance. We have returned. Do not approach. We will fire on any vessel that enters weapons range. Maintain your distance and allow us passage to human space. Nina exchanged glances with Holt. The threat was clear and direct. No pleasantries. No relief at rescue. Just cold military efficiency. Commander Wade, we mean no harm. We only want to help. Your help isn't needed or wanted. We've survived 87 years without it. Before Nina could respond, new alerts blared across the bridge. More ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Krellin war vessels, a dozen of them, taking up aggressive positions. The Perseverance's weapon systems shifted, acquiring the new targets instantly. Nina realized with horror that the human ship could engage both fleets simultaneously. Whatever these people had endured, it had turned them into something dangerous. The Krellin flagship transmitted on open channels, broadcasting to both the Coalition fleet and the mysterious human vessel. Unidentified craft, you have entered Krellin territorial space. Power down your weapons and prepare for boarding inspection. Nina watched Commander Wade's response with a mixture of fascination and dread. The Perseverance didn't bother with words. A targeting laser painted the Krellin flagship, then swept across each warship in sequence. The message was clear. Captain Holt leaned forward in his command chair. Their targeting computers just identified weak points in Krellin shield configurations that our military intelligence doesn't even know about. How is that possible? Nina asked. Unknown. Holt's crystalline face reflected worry. Those ships use classified defensive systems. No one outside Krellin space should be able to detect vulnerabilities. The Perseverance transmitted again. Iris Wade's voice carried no emotion. We will not stop. We will not surrender. Choose your next action carefully. Commander Wade, Nina tried again. Please, let us help. We can provide supplies, medical assistance, safe escort to human territory. A long pause followed. When Wade spoke again, something had shifted in her tone. Not warmth exactly, but perhaps recognition. Dr. Reeves, your accent suggests Earth origin. Northern continent. Yes, I grew up in the Great Lakes region. My mother was from there. Wade's voice softened fractionally. Fina, You may approach in a single shuttle, unarmed. You alone. Anyone else will be destroyed. Holt started to protest, but Nina was already moving toward the shuttle bay. I'm going. Doctor, we don't know what's aboard that ship. They could be hostile, infected with some disease, mentally unstable after decades alone. They're human. They're scared, and they're asking for help even if they can't admit it. Nina grabbed an emergency supply kit. Besides, what choice do we have? If shooting starts, a lot of people die. The shuttle crossed the distance between fleets in tense silence. Nina piloted manually, keeping her hands steady on the controls. Up close, the Perseverance looked even more terrifying. Every surface showed evidence of combat. Blast craters that had been sealed with metal patches. Whole sections that appear to be built from salvaged enemy ships. Technology grafted onto the hull that seemed almost organic. The landing bay doors opened, revealing a cavernous space that once held colony transports. Now it was packed with small attack craft and defensive turrets that tracked her shuttle from entry to landing. Armed soldiers surrounded her the moment she stepped out. They wore patchwork armor, carried weapons from at least 4 different manufacturing sources, and moved with predatory efficiency. Hands visible, one soldier commanded. He was young, maybe 25, but his eyes were ancient, battle-hardened beyond his years. I am unarmed, just here to talk. They searched her anyway, thorough and professional, then escorted her through corridors that made her heart ache. The walls showed signs of desperate repairs. Memorial plaques covered entire sections, listing thousands of names. Children's drawings hung in protected frames, artwork created by young hands that probably never saw planets. They reached the command center. Commander Iris Wade stood, looking at a tactical display. She was shorter than Nina expected, maybe 30 years old, with close-cropped dark hair and a scar running from her left eyebrow to her cheek. She wore a modified uniform that combined human military style with alien design elements. Dr. Reeves, thank you for coming. Wade gestured to the display. You can tell your coalition friends we're not interested in conflict. We just want to go home. Then let us help you. We can arrange safe passage, provide resources for your journey. Wade laughed, a sound without humor. You don't understand. We don't need passage arrangements. We need you to stay out of our way. Commander, where have you been? What happened to the Perseverance? Wade's expression hardened. That information is classified. For human military command only. I saw the modifications to your ship. That technology isn't human. Some of it isn't even from any species we know. Nina stepped closer. You encountered something out there. Something dangerous. We encountered many things, Doctor. Most of them wanted to kill us. Wade pulled up a holographic map. This is where we were pulled through an anomaly 87 years ago. We spent decades trying to find our way back. We fought. We survived. We learned. And now we're home. Nina studied the map. The region of space Wade indicated was completely uncharted, beyond the furthest coalition exploratory missions. How many survived? 3,800 from an original complement of 52,000. Wade's voice remained steady, but Nina saw the pain flash across her face. We lost colonists, crew, families. Children who never got to see the worlds we promised them. I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry. Be grateful. We're bringing back information that could save billions of lives. Wade turned to face Nina directly. There are things out there, species that make the worst coalition nightmares look friendly. We fought them. We learned their tactics. We took their technology, and we're bringing that knowledge home. A younger officer approached, saluting Wade. Commander, the Krellin are powering weapons. Match their energy signatures. Target solutions on all vessels. Do not fire unless they do. The officer departed. Wade returned her attention to Nina. This is why we can't accept your help, Doctor. The moment we start relying on others, we become soft. We forget what survival costs. You're not alone anymore. You don't have to be soldiers every second. Yes, we do. Wade's voice was firm. Because what's coming won't care about your diplomatic solutions or your coalition treaties. It will just consume everything in its path. Nina felt cold dread settle in her stomach. What's coming? Before Wade could answer, alarms blared throughout the ship. The tactical display lit up with new contacts. More ships emerging from faster-than-light travel. Wade studied the readouts, her expression unreadable. Human vessels. Earth military designation. She looked at Nina. Your people finally noticed we're home. The view screen showed 3 destroyers and a command cruiser. Old warships brought out of retirement, but still formidable. A transmission came through from the lead vessel. This is Admiral Green of the Earth Defense Force. Perseverance, is that really you? Wade's professional mask cracked slightly. Nina saw emotion break through. Relief. Fear. Hope. Admiral Green. This is Commander Iris Wade. Reporting return of UHS Perseverance. Request permission to come home, sir. A long pause. Then Admiral Green's voice, thick with emotion. Permission granted, Commander. Welcome home. Admiral Green materialized on the Perseverance's bridge through a holographic projector. Nina watched the old soldier's face as he took in the scarred walls and exhausted crew. His expression shifted from joy to horror to deep sadness in seconds. Commander Wade, how many survivors total? 3,800, sir, plus 73 non-humans who joined our crew during the journey. Non-humans. Green's projection flickered. Explain. Wade gestured to a nearby station where a 6-limbed crystalline being worked the controls with practiced efficiency. This is Engineer Kellis. She's Whelm. Her people were refugees fleeing genocide. We formed an alliance 5 decades ago. 3 Whelm families survived with us. Nina stared at the alien. The Whelm bore no resemblance to any known species. Their bodies seemed to shift between solid and semi-transparent states, adapting to their environment in real time. Green absorbed this information with visible difficulty. We need to debrief your entire crew. The Coalition is demanding answers. The Krellin want blood, and Earth government is in chaos because 17 families just discovered their grandchildren are alive. 17. Wade's voice caught. That many bloodlines survive? You'll have time for reunions later. Right now, I need to know what you encountered out there. Green's hologram solidified, showing determination. And I need to know why your ship is carrying enough firepower to fight a war. Wade looked at Nina, then back to Green. Because we did fight a war, Admiral, and we barely won. The conference began in what used to be the Perseverance's main assembly hall. Now it served as a makeshift command center, with displays showing tactical data and star charts. Representatives from the Coalition, Earth military, and even the Krellin Dominion attended via secure channels. Nina sat beside Captain Holt, watching Wade prepare to deliver her report. The commander stood straight and formal, but Nina could see the weight pressing down on her shoulders. The Perseverance entered a spatial anomaly on day 87 of our colony mission. The anomaly pulled us into an uncharted region of space approximately 40,000 light-years from our departure point. Wade activated the holographic display. Our faster-than-light drives were damaged. Repairs would take years. We began searching for a way home. The star map showed their trajectory. A winding path through unknown systems, marked with symbols indicating battles, losses, and desperate escapes. In year 3, we encountered a species we designated the Harvesters, biomechanical entities that consume entire civilizations. They attacked without warning. We lost 8,000 people in the first engagement. Images appeared on the screens. Massive organic ships that looked like they were grown rather than built. Footage showed them tearing apart smaller vessels, absorbing the materials and crew into their hulls. Captain Bryant sacrificed himself to save the colony modules. He rammed his shuttle into their command ship at full speed, giving us time to escape. Wade's voice remained steady. I was 15 years old. Senior staff promoted me to junior officer because we needed everyone who could work. High Chancellor Vess spoke from her remote connection. How did you survive against such an enemy? We learned. We adapted. Wade pulled up technical schematics. The Harvesters rely on energy absorption. We modified our shields to reverse polarize. Instead of protecting against energy weapons, we made them project disruptive frequencies. It hurt them. You turned defensive systems into weapons, Green said quietly. We turned everything into weapons, sir. Colony tools, mining equipment, life support regulators. When you're outnumbered 1,000 to 1, you use what you have. The presentation continued. Wade described encounters with other hostile species. The Collective, a machine intelligence that harvested organic brains to fuel its processing cores. The Vorn, reptilian raiders who saw humans as weak prey until the Perseverance proved otherwise. In year 24, we encountered the Whelm. They were fleeing the same enemies. Their ship was dying, their population down to a few hundred. Wade gestured to Engineer Kellis. We could have passed them by, saved our resources, but Captain Morris decided we would help. Kellis spoke for the first time, her voice like crystal chimes. Your people shared food when you were starving, gave us shelter when your ship was overcrowded, taught us to fight when we knew only peace. You saved my species from extinction. The Alliance made us stronger, Wade continued. Whelm technology, combined with human adaptability, gave us advantages. We started winning battles instead of just surviving them. Nina noticed something in the background of the tactical footage. Patterns in how the Perseverance fought. Hit-and-run tactics, ambush strategies, psychological warfare against species that thought humans were easy targets. You didn't just survive, Nina said softly. You became predators. Wade met her eyes. Yes, because the alternative was death. We raided enemy supply lines, captured their ships, studied their biology, and found weaknesses. We did things that would make peaceful people sick to their stomachs. She turned back to the assembly. But we kept our humanity. We held memorial services for the fallen. We celebrated births and marriages. We maintained hope even when it seemed impossible. Admiral Green leaned forward. Commander, you mentioned bringing back critical intelligence. What specifically are you referring to? Wade's expression grew grim. The Harvesters are expanding. Their territory has grown by 40% in the last 2 decades. They're consuming everything in their path and moving toward coalition space. Silence filled the virtual assembly. Finally, the Krellin representative spoke. How long until they reach our borders? Current trajectory and expansion rate? 2 to 3 centuries. But that's only if they maintain current speed. If they accelerate, less time. Centuries. Chancellor Vess sounded relieved. That gives us time to prepare. You don't understand. Wade pulled up new data. The anomalies that pulled us through are increasing in frequency. We detected 17 spatial tiers during our journey, each one large enough to pull ships or even small fleets in a hostile space. Something is destabilizing dimensional barriers. She let that sink in. More ships are getting lost, and everything we encountered out there is eventually going to find its way here. A new alarm interrupted the conference. The sensor officer called out urgently. Commander, we have a new anomaly forming. Large signature, similar to the one that brought us through. Everyone rushed to the view screens. Space twisted and warped 200,000 kilometers from their position. The distortion grew rapidly, much faster than the one that brought Perseverance home. All ships, battle stations, green ordered. Unknown contact emerging. The anomaly tore open. A ship materialized, smaller than the Perseverance, but just as heavily modified. Battle damage covered its hull. Weapon systems immediately powered up, targeting everything nearby. Nina recognized the designation painted on the damaged hull. That's the UHS Reliant. Heavy cruiser. Lost 93 years ago. Wade stared at the screen. They survived too. We're not the only ones who made it back. The Reliant broadcast on all frequencies. This is Commander Nora Yates, requesting identification of all vessels. Be advised, we are armed and prepared to defend ourselves. Wade grabbed the communication controls. Commander Yates, this is Commander Iris Wade of the Perseverance. Stand down. You're home. You're safe. A long pause. Then Yates responded, her voice breaking slightly. Perseverance? Is that really you? Yes, and I think we have a lot to talk about. Commander Nora Yates stepped off the transport shuttle with the posture of someone expecting ambush at any moment. Her hand never strayed far from the weapon holstered at her side. She was older than Wade, somewhere in her mid-40s, with gray streaking her short hair and a network of scars visible on her exposed arms. Wade approached cautiously, reading the body language. This was someone who had fought for survival even longer and harder than her own crew. Commander Yates, welcome aboard the Perseverance. Yates studied her for a long moment, then extended her hand. Call me Nora. Ranks feel strange after 93 years fighting pirates and machines. They shook hands. Nina watched from nearby, fascinated by the interaction. Two people who had endured unimaginable hardships, now meeting as survivors rather than strangers. Your ship, Nora gestured toward a viewport showing the Perseverance. How many modifications did you make? Lost count around year 40. You, same. Nora's expression softened fractionally. My people will be glad to know we weren't alone out there. Wade led them to the conference room. Engineers from both ships crowded around tables, already sharing technical specifications and comparing notes on their modifications. Boone, the Perseverance's security chief, stood in the corner watching Nora's guards with professional interest. The Reliant was on patrol when we hit the anomaly. Nora began once everyone settled. Lost 2/3 of our crew in the first year. The region we ended up in was controlled by something called the Collective. Nina pulled out her recording equipment, documenting everything. This was history being made, stories that future generations would study. Artificial intelligence. Wade asked, started that way. Now it's something worse. Nora pulled up holographic images. The Collective uploads organic minds into its network, uses their processing power to expand. They hunted us for decades, wanted our brains to fuel their systems. The images showed vast server ships, each one containing millions of harvested minds screaming silently in digital prisons. Nina felt sick looking at them. We fought back by becoming ghosts. Hit-and-run tactics, never stayed in one place. Stole their ships and learned their technology. Nora's eyes grew distant. Eventually, we found other species fighting the same war. Formed alliances, shared knowledge. Wade leaned forward. Did you encounter the harvesters? Heard rumors. Never saw them directly, but we met refugees fleeing their advance. Nora mit Wade Geish. They're real, aren't they? Very real. We fought them for 15 years. The two commanders shared a look of mutual understanding. They had both seen horrors that peaceful civilizations couldn't imagine. Dr. Ames, the Perseverance's chief science officer, compared notes with the Reliance technical team. Your shield modifications are fascinating. Completely different approach from ours, but equally effective. Necessity drives innovation. The Reliance engineer responded. When plasma weapons stop working, you find alternatives. Nina listened to the technical discussions, but her attention kept returning to the human element. Crew members from both ships began sharing personal stories. Some had served together before the losses. Others found common ground in shared trauma. A young woman from the Perseverance approached one of the Reliant survivors, a man with a prosthetic arm made from salvaged Collective technology. You lost people in the first year, most of the civilian staff, some military. The attack came without warning. He flexed his artificial fingers. Got this from a Collective drone that thought it could board us. I thought differently. We lost our families in year 3. The harvesters don't take prisoners. They stood together in silence. Two survivors who understood loss on a fundamental level. Admiral Green watched the integration through the communication system. High Chancellor Vess was also observing, along with representatives from a dozen coalition species. 2 ships, Vess said quietly. 2 human vessels returning from impossible journeys. What does this mean for the broader picture? It means the anomalies are real and increasing, Green responded. It means more ships are trapped out there. And it means the threats these crews encountered are also real. Nina saw Nora and Wade move to a private corner, speaking in low tones. She couldn't hear the conversation, but their body language told a story of shared experience and mutual respect. How many did you lose total? Wade asked. Started with 3,000 crew. Down to 800 now. Nora's voice was flat. Some died in battle. Others from disease, accidents, despair. A few couldn't handle what we had to become and took their own lives. We had suicides too. Captain Morris made us start mandatory counseling sessions. Helped, but not enough for everyone. Your crew looked stable, disciplined, but not broken. Wade nodded. We had advantages you didn't. Colony ship meant civilian families, children, gave people reasons to keep fighting beyond just survival. The kids kept us human. We had no children, just soldiers and staff who became soldiers. Nora looked at the Whelm engineer working alongside human crew. You integrated aliens into your crew. That's bold. They saved us as much as we saved them. Whelm technology kept our ship running when human systems failed. Wade paused. You mentioned alliances. Did any species integrate into your crew? No. We worked with others, but never trusted enough to share living space. Nora's expression showed regret. Maybe that was a mistake. Your crew seemed stronger for it. The conference reconvened with both commanders presenting their findings. The combined intelligence painted a terrifying picture. Two massive hostile forces expanding through unknown space. Dimensional anomalies increasing in frequency. The possibility of more lost human ships trapped in hostile territory. The collective moves slower than the harvesters, Nora explained. But they're more strategic. They don't just consume. They infiltrate, corrupt, turn species against each other. Wade added her analysis. The harvesters are pure destruction. Fast-moving, overwhelming numbers. But predictable once you understand their patterns. Can they be stopped? Captain Holt asked. Both commanders answered simultaneously. Yes. Wade continued, but it requires unified action. The coalition can't face these threats divided. We learned that the hard way, Norris said. Species fighting alone get destroyed. Working together, you have a chance. High Chancellor Vess made a decision. Then we will work together. The Galactic Defense Alliance begins today. Commanders Wade and Yates, will you help us prepare? Wade and Nora exchanged glances. Nina saw exhaustion in both their faces. They wanted rest. They wanted peace. But they were soldiers first. Yes, Wade said firmly. Absolutely, Nora agreed. New alarms blared across the Perseverance. The sensor officer called out with barely controlled panic. Multiple anomalies forming. Big ones. Count 7 signatures emerging. Everyone rushed to the view screens. Space tore open in 7 locations simultaneously. Ships began materializing. Nina recognized 3 human vessel designs. The others were completely unknown. A massive fleet of refugee ships appeared, battered and desperate, broadcasting distress signals in a dozen languages. Behind them, space continued to ripple. Something else was coming through. Something much larger than any ship. Wade's voice carried absolute authority. Battle stations. All ships prepare for combat. Whatever's chasing them, just follow them home. The refugee fleet limped into coalition space like wounded animals seeking shelter. 47 ships of varying sizes and designs, some barely holding together. The lead vessel transmitted in broken standard language, mixing human English with alien dialects. Sanctuary. Please. Harvesters pursuing. 3 days behind. Wade immediately took command of the tactical situation. All coalition vessels form defensive perimeter. Perseverance and Reliant prepare to screen the refugees. Get them behind our lines. Nina watched the refugee ships more closely. Among them, for vessels carried human markings. More lost crews returning home after decades in the darkness. Admiral Green, Wade transmitted. We have human survivors in that fleet. Request priority recovery. Granted. Bring our people home, Commander. The Perseverance deployed escort fighters, guiding the battered human ships towards safe docking positions. Nina volunteered to join the greeting teams, wanted to document these reunions. Captain Holt assigned her a security detail and emergency medical supplies. The first human ship to dock was designated UHS Endeavour, a colony transport like the Perseverance. When the airlock opened, Nina gasped. The crew looked more like refugees than military personnel. Thin, exhausted, some carrying children who had clearly been born in deep space. Welcome home, Nina said softly. The Endeavor's captain, a woman named Rachel Park, broke down crying. Is this real? Are we actually in coalition space? You're safe now. You're home. Behind the Endeavor came two cargo haulers and the destroyer UHS Valiant. Each ship carried stories of survival against impossible odds. The Valiant's crew had fought continuously for 60 years. The cargo haulers had transformed themselves into mobile fortresses, protecting civilian ships through countless battles. Nina interviewed as many survivors as possible, recording their experiences. An engineer from the Valiant described fighting the Collective for decades. They tried to upload my crew. We destroyed our own communication systems to keep them out. Lived in silence for years. A colonist from the Endeavor told of planets destroyed by the Harvesters. We watched them consume entire worlds. Billions of people just gone, turned into fuel for their ships. But the refugees weren't all human. Nina met species she had never seen before. A methane-breathing race that communicated through color changes in their skin. A crystalline species similar to, but distinct from the Whelm. Reptilian beings who had fought alongside humans against common enemies. Point one refugee, a being that introduced itself as Scholar Trell, approached Nina directly. You must understand, the Harvesters are not the greatest threat. What do you mean? They're a symptom, not disease. Something broke the galaxy long ago, made boundaries between dimensions weak. Harvesters came through tears in reality. So did Collective. So did we. Trell's multiple eyes fixed on Nina with intensity. The breaking continues. Soon, barriers fail completely. Before Nina could process this information, new alarms sounded throughout the fleet. The sensor officer's voice carried barely controlled panic. Energy signatures detected, matching Harvester configurations. Multiple contacts. They followed the refugees through. Wade's command came instantly. All ships prepare for combat. Refugees, get behind our defensive line now. Space twisted as Harvester vessels emerged. Unlike human or coalition ships, these looked organic and raw. Pulsing biomechanical structures that seemed to breathe. 10 ships, each the size of a coalition cruiser, their hulls covered in what looked like harvested metal and organic tissue combined. The Perseverance's weapons powered up with a whine that Nina felt through the deck plates. Beside them, the Reliant matched their energy signatures. The Coalition fleet spread into battle formation, following tactics the veteran commanders laid out. Target the lead ship, Wade ordered. Concentrated fire. Show them what happens when they chase prey into our space. The combined fleet opened fire. Energy weapons, kinetic projectiles, and exotic weapons salvaged from deep space encounters all converged on the lead Harvester ship. Its shields held for 3 seconds before catastrophically failing. The ship broke apart, pieces drifting in the void. The remaining Harvester vessels adapted immediately, modifying their shield frequencies to match the new threat profile. They returned fire with weapons that ignored conventional defenses, reaching through shields to strike hulls directly. Evasive maneuvers, Captain Holt ordered his ship, matched the Perseverance's movements. Nora's voice came through the fleet communication. They're adapting faster than expected. Switch to kinetic weapons. Physical projectiles. They can't easily adapt to mass and velocity. The battle became a deadly dance. Human and coalition ships working together against an enemy that learned from every attack. The Harvesters moved with alien grace, their ships flowing through space rather than simply moving through it. Wade launched what she called the Hammer, a weapon she had described during her initial briefing. A concentrated gravitational pulse that didn't just damage shields, but crushed them through dimensional manipulation. A Harvester ship imploded, its structure unable to withstand the impossible forces. Recharge time 8 minutes, Wade announced. Focus conventional weapons on the wounded vessels. Don't give them time to regenerate. Nina watched from the Perseverance's observation deck, documenting everything. This was what these crews had faced for decades. Constant battle against enemies that adapted and evolved. No wonder they had become hardened soldiers. Engineer Kellis and the Whelm technical team worked frantically at their stations, maintaining the shield harmonics that kept harvester weapons from penetrating their defenses. Human and alien cooperation in perfect synchronization. The battle lasted 17 minutes. 4 harvester ships destroyed outright. 3 more damaged and fleeing. 2 more pursuing refugee ships that had scattered during the combat. The coalition fleet had taken damage, but no losses. "Cease fire," Wade ordered. "Let them run. They'll report back that this space is defended." Admiral Green's hologram materialized beside Wade. "Effective tactics, Commander. Your experience shows. We've had 87 years of practice, sir." Wade looked exhausted, but this was just a scouting force. The real fleet numbers in the thousands. High Chancellor Vess addressed the combined fleet. "This attack proves the threat is real and immediate. The Galactic Defense Alliance is no longer a proposal, but a necessity. All species must contribute forces and technology." Captain Holt added his support. "The Paloran fleet will join this alliance. These commanders have proven their worth." Even the Krellin representative, whose people had threatened the Perseverance just hours earlier, spoke up. "Krellin Dominion stands with the Alliance. Old grudges mean nothing against extinction." Nina documented the historic moment. Species that had fought each other for centuries, now united by common threat. And at the center of it all, 2 human commanders who had survived hell and brought back warnings of worse to come. Wade and Nora stood together on the Perseverance's bridge, watching the defensive formation solidify. Damaged ships receiving repairs. Refugees finding shelter. Military forces coordinating strategies. "We came home to rest," Nora said quietly. "Instead, we're preparing for war," Wade finished. "At least this time, we're not alone." Space rippled again, but this time different. Something massive taking form. Nina felt her heart race as a structure materialized. Not a ship, a gate, ancient beyond measure, covered in markings from civilization that existed before any current species reached space. And it was activating, calling to something in the darkness beyond reality itself. The ancient gate hung in space like a scar in reality itself. 3 kilometers wide, constructed from materials that made coalition sensors give contradictory readings. Sometimes metal, sometimes energy, sometimes something that existed between physical states. Scholar Trell pushed through the crowd on the Perseverance's bridge. That structure, the architects built it millions of years ago. Architects. Wade kept her eyes on the tactical display, tracking the gate's energy output. Beings who came before all current civilizations. They connected the galaxy through gates like this. Trell's skin shifted through worried colors. Then something made them flee. They shut down the network and vanished. Dr. Ames ran analysis programs, his screens filling with data. The gate is transmitting mathematical sequences, universal language patterns. It's saying something. What? Admiral Green demanded. Sanctuary protocol initiated. Refugees inbound. Ames looked up, face pale. It's calling survivors home through dimensions. The gate's center began to glow. Space rippled outward in waves that made coalition ships drift despite their engines. Something was coming through from the other side. Ships emerged one by one. Dozens of them. Hundreds. All damaged. All fleeing. Species that Nina had never seen. Vessels built with unknown technologies. Survivors from corners of space that no explorer had ever reached. Defensive positions, Wade ordered, but her voice carried uncertainty. These weren't enemies. These were refugees like the others, running from something worse. Among the emerging vessels, Nina spotted more human ships. 3 destroyers, 5 cargo haulers, even a medical frigate still broadcasting emergency beacons from decades ago. Each one representing lost crews who had finally found their way back. How many human vessels were lost to anomalies? Captain Holt asked quietly. Official records say 17 ships over 120 years, Green answered. But there were rumors of others. Black Ops missions. Colony ships that went dark. We might be seeing them all return. The refugee fleet transmitted on all available frequencies. A coalition species translated the primary message. We bring warning. The breaking accelerates. Dimensional walls failing. The harvesters pursue, but they flee something greater. Ancient evil waking. All must prepare. Wade and Nora exchanged looks. They had both seen hints of this truth during their journeys. Evidence of something massive lurking in the spaces between dimensions. We need to organize this chaos, Nora said. Get these refugees to safety and find out what they know. The next 3 hours passed in organized confusion. Human ships received priority docking at coalition stations. Medical teams worked overtime treating survivors from a dozen species. Engineers evaluated damaged vessels, determining which could be repaired and which were too far gone. Nina found herself interviewing captains from 4 different returned human ships. Each told similar stories, pulled through anomalies, decades fighting for survival, desperate searches for home, and now warnings of threats that made the harvesters look manageable. Captain Oliver Wright of the destroyer UHS Phoenix described encounters with entities that lived in dimensional spaces between real space. Things that shouldn't exist. Beings that fed on reality itself. We saw them consuming entire star systems, turning matter into nothing. The medical frigate captain, Dr. Sarah Lynn, told of plagues that crossed dimensional boundaries. Diseases that infected not just bodies, but ideas. Thoughts became contagious. Civilizations collapsed because they couldn't trust their own minds. Through all the chaos, Wade and Nora coordinated the defensive preparations. The gate remained active, still calling refugees home. But how long before something else answered that call? High Chancellor Vess made the decision that would change galactic history. The Galactic Defense Alliance is officially established. All species contribute forces. Humans will hold senior command positions based on their combat experience. The announcement sparked debates across coalition space. Some species protested giving humans such authority. Others recognized the necessity. The return crews had survived what would have destroyed conventional forces. Admiral Green addressed the controversy directly. My people didn't ask for this responsibility. They earned it through decades of survival against impossible odds. If you have better qualified commanders, present them. Otherwise, let experience guide us. No one presented alternatives. Wade found herself promoted to admiral despite her protests. I'm 30 years old and tired. You're 30 chronologically, Green corrected. But you've lived 87 years of combat experience. You're exactly who we need. Nora took command of Special Operations Forces, coordinating strike teams trained in the harsh tactics learned beyond known space. Her crews would raid enemy territory, gather intelligence, and conduct rescue missions for ships still trapped in hostile regions. Nina continued documenting everything, her recordings becoming the foundation for understanding what had happened to the lost ships. She interviewed survivors, recorded technical specifications, and captured the emotional reality of people who had endured decades of horror. One evening, she found Wade alone in the memorial hall, standing before walls covered in thousands of names. The dead of the Perseverance, preserved in memory. Do you ever regret it? Nina asked quietly. Surviving when so many didn't? Wade took a long time to answer. Every day. But then I remember why we survived. Someone had to warn everyone. Someone had to come home and tell the truth. She touched one name on the wall. Captain Bryant gave his life so we could escape. Lieutenant Morris held a breach in the hull until we could seal it. Engineer Park disabled his own oxygen supply to keep the power running. They died so we could live, so we could bring this warning. And now you'll fight again. Yes, but this time we're not alone. This time we have allies, resources, hope. Wade turned to face Nina. The Perseverance was lost. Now it's found, and it will defend everyone, human and alien alike. The Galactic Defense Alliance grew rapidly. Coalition species contributed ships and technology. Human expertise shaped training programs. Refugee species shared knowledge from their own battles. The ancient gate remained active, bringing more survivors home each day. 3 months after the Perseverance's return, a massive fleet assembled at the border of coalition space. 3,000 ships from 24 species, working together with unified command structure. Defensive stations armed with hybrid technologies. early warning systems monitoring dimensional barriers for new anomalies. Wade stood on the Perseverance's bridge, now the flagship of the defense fleet. Around her, a mixed crew of humans and aliens worked in perfect synchronization. Weln engineers beside Paloran technicians. Krellin warriors training with human marines. Species that had fought each other, now protecting each other. Admiral Green addressed the fleet one final time before they departed for their patrol routes. 87 years ago, we lost ships to the darkness. Today, those ships returned bringing knowledge and warnings. They survived hell to save us. Now we honor their sacrifice by standing ready. The fleet dispersed to defensive positions. Wade remained at her post, monitoring sensors that watched for threats from beyond reality itself. She was exhausted. She wanted rest. But rest would come later, after everyone was safe. Commander Wade, Engineer Kellis called out, detecting new anomaly signatures. Multiple formations. Here they go again. But this time different. This time Wade commanded not one damaged colony ship, but an entire battle fleet. This time humanity stood alongside other species instead of alone. All ships, this is Admiral Wade. Unknown contacts approaching. Battle stations. Prepare to defend our home. She looked at the mixed crew around her, seeing determination in every face regardless of species. Whatever comes through those gates, we face it together. The Perseverance, lost for 87 years, had returned to lead the defense of civilized space. And this time they would not run. This time they would fight. Together.